Alright, my name's John with Aerocharger Turbos, and I'm here with Brad today, the owner of Aerocharger Turbos. What we're going to do is we're going to show you the insides and outs of a RZR XP 900 kit.
So John, we've got the basic turbo here. Can you tell me a little bit about this turbo and what they're receiving?
Sure. This is what we call a 53 series turbo. It's our smaller of the two turbos that we have. The trim level is going to be a 114-300.
What that means, 114-300, I'm not trying to confuse you with numbers. 114 is 114% of the original design intent of the compressor side. The 300 is the size of our turbine side. We'll go anywhere from about a 57 to a 224 on the compressor side, and anywhere from a 150 to a 300 on the turbine side. So this is kind of a mid-range compressor with a very large turbine on it for the 53.
Yeah, very good turbo. What you want to do is go ahead and read through your turbo checklist here first. This will go over your vane settings, where to put oil in, how much oil to put in, and basic operation of the turbo. You will see with the turbo itself, it has a heat shield that's made out of stainless, and it's got a heat wrap coiled up on the inside of it for additional heat barrier.
That just helps keep the heat down. You know, turbine housings get very hot. And something that we're able to do is go ahead and put an air gap in between them. We fill it with insulation, and being a stainless steel heat shield, you know, there's also options. We can ceramic coat them, stuff like that. But it's a very effective way of keeping the heat down underneath the hood.
Now, with your turbocharger, you're going to receive a bottle of oil with your inlet and outlet gaskets.
The oil that comes with this is just it's a full synthetic high-speed turbine oil. It's specially blended. We'd be happy, you know, in 4 or 5 years, if you need more of it, we'll get you some out. There's also gaskets in here. But putting the oil in, why don't you show them where the oil goes?
Absolutely. Like I said, if you're not sure on this is all listed out here on your turbo sheet. On the compressor cover of the turbo itself, you're going to find a vent and you're going to find a solid plug. The vent is something you don't touch. It's already Loctited in and it's set for its position. The plug, on the other hand, is not Loctited in, because it does have to be removed immediately upon receival of the turbocharger. What you want to do is go ahead and take your bottle of oil and fill it in through your fill plug here until it reaches this top level.
Just one full bottle. Don't even really worry about where the level is. We've got it all figured out. Squirt the bottle in, clean out your threads. Recommend a little bit of blue Loctite on the plug. Snug it up, and basically the turbo's ready to be bolted in with the rest of your kit.
Now, the stainless steel heat shield that comes with the turbo does act as the outlet gasket, so you do not need to stack the outlet gasket that comes with the oil below this. You can if you'd like, but like I said, this does act as the gasket itself, so this is all you need. When it comes to the turbocharger's settings, the vane setting has already been predetermined by us to perfectly match the vehicle. Now, if you want to change it, you're free to, but please read your sheet first to understand how it works and how this is going to affect your vehicle.
We've also got a video on YouTube. If you just do a search on Aerocharger controller or go to our channel, you can easily find it there. We set the turbo up, you know, for the best settings that we know. Everybody likes things a little different. If you're a tinker, it's great. Go ahead. Watch the video and feel free to play with it all you want. Let's talk about boost.
Sure.
Where's it set at?
Absolutely. These things are always going to come set at 5.5 pounds of boost.
It's always a good idea to start with lower boost. Make sure your whole system's installed correctly. You've got your fuel system flushed out in case you were running 87 octane. Now you've got some good octane in there. Everything's working well. And now if you want to turn your boost up, how do you do that?
Absolutely. We've got additional shims, which you can remove the cover here and the piston and diaphragm assembly and just install shims, which are worth about a half pound of boost each, behind the current spring to give you that extra boost level, or you can just go ahead and step up to the 7-pound spring with the addition of these additional shims if more than 7 psi is needed.
And all that's explained in that video as well, Aerocharger controller. And as a little helpful note, you know, if you're out, you forgot your shims, you really want to chase your buddy a little more, that shim is almost equal to a 1/4-inch fender washer. 1/4-inch fender washer at any hardware store, depending on their thickness and the manufacturer, give you a pound and a half of boost. Ours is a little thinner than that for a little more precision. But anyhow, sounds like we're ready to look at the rest of the kit. So now that we've gone over the turbo, we've got that covered. We're going to look at the rest of the components, and for that we've got Andrew Day, who is our application engineer. He's really one of the founders of the kit business for us. Let's have a look at what we've got. Let's go, I guess, start with your box.
Now that John's got the turbo out of the box, I'll go through the rest of the parts that are going to be in the same box with the turbo. The biggest and probably most important thing in this box is the Donaldson air filter. Same one we've talked about in all the videos. You know, a big Donaldson canister air filter.
Now, we oversized this so that a guy, if he turns up his RPM, he turns up his boost, he's running at high altitude. For some reason he's in a dusty situation, which of course would never be from actually following somebody because we'll always be in the lead. But it's oversized.
Yep.
If they don't maintain it the way they really should, we've covered the bases on it.
Yeah, we've designed it so, you know, even if it's half clogged with dirt, which would take a long time to do anyway, it's still going to flow enough air for the RZR.
Which is important for the turbo to be able to breathe free. It's more efficient. What else we got in there? I'll put this aside.
The next thing that's going to be, the next big thing in this kit, in this box, is going to be the water pump for the air-to-water intercooler. It's just a simple Bosch centrifugal pump. It gets used by OEMs like Ford for the Cobra and, you know, Lightning trucks.
What are they making for horsepower that this pump was really designed for?
Typically they're around 350, but guys will push them up to 500 horsepower using the same exact pump.
So needless to say, not only is this a top quality pump, it's definitely oversized for the application for the utmost efficiency.
Correct. In the box with the pump are all the brackets to mount it on your RZR as well.
Cool. What else we got?
Next thing of importance is going to be the Innovate air-fuel ratio gauge. It's a simple plug-and-play system. Everything's, you know, calibrated beforehand. You don't have to worry about that. You just plug in the sensor and the muffler and the gauge in the dash, and everything just wires up. No real wiring for you to do. Like I said, the electronics are just plug and play.
A couple of the things that I like about this, and we've used a lot of O2 gauges over the number of years, but you've got a black bezel, there's a silver bezel, but the biggest thing I like is the way that the display color changes based upon the condition of the engine. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's right. We preset them before they go out the door for varying air-fuel ratios and different conditions. The lights can be either green, yellow, or red. Red's going to be lean. You don't typically want to see that at all, except maybe at idle. You know, it'll run in the red mode. While you're cruising around, the lights are typically yellow because you're in an area that's, you know, fairly lean, but, you know, definitely safe. Then when you're running under wide open throttle, you definitely want the lights to be green. That way you know you're adding plenty of fuel to your RZR.
And like, what's important for me on that is you know, the red you'll see under a hard deceleration condition, yep, because the engine shut the fuel off. But when you're under full power, I mean, you're hauling the mail. You know, it's sometimes hard to look at all your gauges and start studying them. And all you got to do is look down, boom, green, you know you're golden, keep on going.
Yeah, when you're, you know, running through the trees, tight woods, or, you know, wherever you're at, it's a lot easier just to real quick see that there's a color versus what the number actually is.
Cool. Nice piece.
Another important part in this box is going to be the clutch kit. This clutch kit here is the race clutch kit. It's designed by, you know, with us and team. Comes with preset for pump gas, but it's got a chart on the box that tells you exactly what weight to run for different boost levels.
I remember the day we actually developed this, or the many days that we did, but we created a few videos that you can see. But you know, being an adjustable weight, it's not difficult to adjust, and we try to take some of the work out of it. We've got the heel toe. It's set for 5 pounds, 7.5 pounds, and 10 pounds. We really haven't had any problems with guys having any trouble with this. It's very self-explanatory. What's in this box here?
In that box is a new helix and spring for the primary clutch. The spring, or the helix, is a custom ground ramp specifically made for our turbo kit.
I remember the day we worked on this a lot, and we were actually surprised at the helix angles we ended up with. But tell us a little bit about what does the angle mean? I mean,
the primary role is just pretty much controls how the RZR shifts, what it does when you get out of the throttle. how it back shifts to keep the RPMs in a optimal position. That way when you're back on the throttle, the power's right there and it hasn't dropped too far back, and then you're at low RPMs and you guys start over again.
In other words, if the helix were bad, it'd be like misshifting, going from first to third,
Yep.
or downshifting
From fourth to first.
trying to come out of a corner, but you haven't downshifted and you're stuck in a high gear. That's what the helix does for you. Is it allows you to be in that right gear all the time, and then you've got a primary spring there. Secondary spring stays the same.
Yep, secondary we leave alone. Wasn't a whole lot of benefit to changing it out.
Playing with clutching gets very expensive,
Yep.
very fast, and you know, some guys enjoy doing it, but this is really a good system that certainly costs a lot of money to develop.
Yeah, and those adjustable weights they just had are nice too, because maybe if you have maybe 25-inch tires for some reason, or you're running 30-inch tires, you know, it's not going to be exactly right what we recommend, but you're going to be able to easily adjust it to, you know, suit your application.
Yeah, and if somebody had an odd application, certainly get a hold of us, or get a hold of Jason at Team. He's spent a lot of time on our vehicles and knows them well.
Yeah, we can give you some recommendations. One of the next parts is going to be the fill neck for the air-to-water intercooler. It's just going to plug into the coolant lines, which we'll show you later, as well as the water pump.
This is you know, another example of kind of what we talked about. Is we do as much assembly as possible for you, in short of having a vehicle here. But everything is assembled, packaged, labeled. The label corresponds with what's in the manual, and we try to give you as much information as possible to make your install as easy as possible. What else we got?
All right, the next thing is pretty much the fuel system for the RZR. It's going to be a Dobeck fuel control box called the Aerocharger.
Now this is actually a fairly simple system here. You know, wiring always, I know, scares me. I'm not an electronics guru by any stretch, but when you spread all of this out, this is the controller. You've got a mode button, a minus, a plus. This wire, what do we do with this?
That wire doesn't do anything. Might be there for, you know, future projects down the road, but right now you can ignore it.
This is basically just an additional tap until, in case we develop some further technology, we could upgrade customers at any given time is what that's for.
That's going to be the pressure line. That way the fuel controller knows exactly how much pressure is in the manifold.
And the rest of it is fairly simple. These two connectors are just so that we've got the ability to pull the computer off. We have ground wire, and then from here we just have the two pigtails to go to the fuel injectors.
Correct. And we put those sub harness in there. That way if we do come out with a new flash to make use of that extra wire, it's something that you can just easily remove from your RZR. You're not going to have to pull the bed off to get to the injectors or anything like that. You can just real easily disconnect it, send it in, and we can get you the latest and greatest.
Yep, yeah, it's just trying to make things easier.
The next thing is we have two fuel injectors. We replaced the factory fuel injectors on the RZR with some larger injectors. That way you don't need any additional injectors installed in your vehicle. So, you know, when you're installing these, all you do is pop the old ones out, throw the new ones in, and you're ready to go.
So by putting the larger injectors in there, then we're actually subtracting fuel from the stock map.
Correct. Down low,
by the time it gets to the fuel injector.
Yeah, the fuel controller that we just showed you will actually pull a little bit of fuel on the bottom end. Then, you know, when we're at wide open throttle under boost, and, you know, just running around, it's adding additional fuel that the stock injectors can't supply.
How much power can a guy get out of these injectors?
These injectors will probably pretty easily take you to probably 150 horsepower before we need to bump up the injector size, which there's guys out there that are doing right now. They're
big, you know, bores,
big
crazy
bores, yep.
Horsepower. And if that's the case, we replace the injectors. They pull their controller apart at their sub-harness connector,
yep.
Send it to us, we reflash the box.
We'll give you a program for the larger injectors, you know, let us know exactly what you're doing, and we can get you a map to get you on the road.
Cool.
The next things are going to be the pressure lines for your RZR XP. They'll just plug in to the throttle body, and it's all the lines you need for your blow-off valve, for your gauges, for the Aerocharger. They're all just plug and play. all, they're all pre-assembled. That way you're not having to cut lengths or anything like that.
And we've got every end labeled. This line goes to the solenoid. So you're not trying to figure out which one goes where. We've already got all the fittings on it we can possibly put on there. But, so fairly self-explanatory.
Yeah, he was just talking about that. We use a solenoid. That way the fuel controller can calibrate for the ambient pressure. That way, whether you're going up or down in altitude, every time you restart your vehicle, it's going to recalibrate. That way you're properly fueling your vehicle.
And again, this solenoid is an OEM part.
Yep, OEM gets used by tons of manufacturers. The line's pre-labeled, tells you exactly where the line goes. So, just install it and you're ready to go. Nothing complicated. Got just a couple little things, just different hardware. There's hardware to mount the Donaldson air filter in its position, clamps for the intake tubing. Here's a little adapter that will allow you to hang the muffler on your RZR on the exhaust hanger. It's just, real simple parts, not a whole lot to talk about, just small
but
little
only
parts.
a couple of parts per bag, and each bag's
specifically
labeled.
That way you know exactly what they go to, no guessing. Alright, another thing that we have is a filter. That's going to go on the line that we take out of the stock air box. That way you're just, and it's hooked up to the IAC valve. That way there's absolutely no possibility that you're getting dirt back into the engine. Even though the IAC's normally pressurized, if you hold it you can feel air moving through there. You just
redundancy.
Eliminate the possibility of a problem.
Yep.
Another little thing, like I was talking about earlier, all our gauges come pre-wired. This is the wire harness. It plugs into the 12-volt adapter on the front of the RZR. The air-fuel ratio gauge will plug in there. The lights for the boost gauge. It's all pre-assembled, and you just plug it right into your RZR.
On that last part, you used a word that maybe people aren't familiar with, but IAC. What is IAC?
The IAC's an idle air control valve. It just allows the RZR to pretty much idle effectively.
It used to be we had a little idle screw on carburetors and
Yep.
stuff, but with the EFI systems, they're now using this to control idle.
Yep. All right. One of the next things is the springs and gasket for the RZR, for the header, exhaust header. The exhaust header is going to be in the other box. I'll show it to you later. But we put all the springs and the gaskets that you need just right in this bag. Once you install it, just throw the gasket on and spring it.
Cool.
Next thing's the boost gauge. Simple boost gauge, comes with the pressure fittings already on there. It's set up to be lit, which was on that electrical harness. You just use a 2-inch hole saw, cut a hole in your dash, and the gauge will just mount right in place.
Cool.
Then one of the last things in this box is going to be the intake flange. This is actually what we mount the hose to that runs to the Donaldson air filter, and this will go in the exact same place as the stock intake.
So that stock intake sits just behind the driver's left shoulder.
Yeah.
So we take advantage of that stock location. It's a clean spot to pick up air. And even if it wasn't clean, it's the cleanest on the vehicle. We go to oversized Donaldson. All is good.
All of it goes into it. It comes coated. You never have to worry about what it's going to look like later. It's a a ceramic coating. Not that it's really needed in this environment, but it's just little things like that that we do to make our kit a little better.
Cool. We about done with your box?
Got one more really important thing, and probably what I should have talked about first, but that's the instruction manual. Inside the instruction manual, you're also going to find a field guide for the Aero Commander. It tells you exactly what all the modes do, and how you're going to go about tuning them. If you would ever need to, you shouldn't need to because it comes pre-programmed, but it's got all the recommendations. It'll tell you exactly where we like to run our RZR. That way, if you mess with it and get it off so it's not running right, you can set it back to the way we send it out.
So the guy doesn't have to, but if he chooses to fine tune for whatever reason, some guys just like playing with the buttons. It's there. If you get lost, settings are on there. You go right back to the factory settings.
Yep. Another thing is a template. It's going to be the template for to hang the exhaust. You'll end up cutting a part of a bracket off, and we'll use the rest of it to hang the muffler. Aerocharger sticker goes in all of our kits. That way you can show everyone what you got if you're not trying to be a sleeper. Then the instruction manual itself, it's bound, it's got cover on it. It's everything you need step by step through the entire installation process.
We also have a video on YouTube. How do they find that video?
Just go to YouTube, search Aerocharger RZR XP, and it'll be there, and it'll pretty much walk you through the installation.
Yep. Between that and the manual, it should make things pretty easy.
The first part you're going to pull out of the box is the radiator for the air-to-water system. The radiator comes with cardboard on it, that way you protect the fins. You don't have to worry about them getting damaged in shipping. And it's got the brackets, again, pre-installed just so you don't have to screw with it when you're installing your RZR. It makes the install that much faster. It's got all the hoses and clamps already pre-installed. Just drop it in place, put the screws in that mount it, then you're pretty much done with the intercooler, or the radiator. It's the largest cooler we can fit in the front of the RZR without having to have you cut out any plastics or frame or pull out the stock radiator.
Yeah, that's one of the advantages I think that we have is we do enough volume, we do enough applications in lots of different industries that if we need to, we'll have custom part made for us.
Yep.
And this is just one of those examples. We got to buy, I don't know, 50 or 100 of them at a time or something. But it's worthwhile because at the end of the day, it makes the kit that much better. We're not just grabbing a component off the shelf and trying to make it work. So let's see what else we got.
This is actually the tube that's going to run from the intake flange that I showed you earlier. That's on the left side behind the driver. And it's going to run over to the downlets and air filter. It's going to use those clamps I showed you earlier. And it's just going to provide air to the downlets and filter, and it's going to be cleaner air. That way it's just not sucking hot air from beneath the bed. The next thing in this box is going to be the hose for the air-to-water intercooler system. We supply enough hose to work for either a 4-seater or a 2-seater. It's the right length for the 4-seater the way we send it out. But if you have a 2-seater, you're just going to end up cutting off a couple feet for your installation.
So between that part and this part here makes up our header system.
Yeah, this is the header we make, custom made for the RZR XP. It's made out of full stainless. You're never going to have to worry about the quality of the metal, if it's going to rust out or blow out, within a few miles. It's a full stainless system, custom made and are jigged to make sure everything's got plenty of clearance. That way you're not worried about melting plastics or anything like that.
This is one of those parts that we've actually spent a lot of time on. The exhaust gas temperatures, or EGTs, are extremely high on this vehicle. Even the stock header system doesn't like to hold up. So this is a very thick-walled, I believe it's 304 stainless, TIG welded. When we weld these components together, we also do what's called backgassing. We will fill the internal of the header with argon to keep the oxidation on the inside of the weld at a bare minimum. We then wrap them with a header wrap. This is to just further insulate the part, to protect the components around it, to transfer more heat, more energy to the turbo to spool faster, and then the whole thing is soaked, for lack of a better word, in a silicone spray that keeps the header wrap in good condition. Now when a guy fires this up, it's going to smoke a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to smoke for a little bit. After it gets a little heat in the RZR, it'll stop smoking. It may take a few minutes before it finally happens.
And that's just the curing process of the silicone?
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. The exhaust wrap, I don't know if you guys have ever wrapped anything before, but man, the first time you fire it up, it always sits there and smokes for a little while. Alright, the next part we have for the RZR is the muffler assembly. Again, it's made completely out of stainless steel. That way you're not worrying about it falling apart. When you get it wet, going through a creek crossing or anything like that, it's not going to rust out. It comes with the O2 bung already welded in. It's got a bracket on it that mounts it onto the back of the RZR, along with this flange here, which mounts to the turbo and onto that bracket on the exhaust hanger on the RZR.
Now this one we don't wrap. The reason for it is it's out the back of the vehicle. At this point we've already used the energy through the turbine. We really don't care about the energy if it dissipates, and it's a nice clean look from the rear of the vehicle.
Yeah, it's clean stainless, it just looks good. So
what I love is the sound of this. I swear I still think it sounds like a Top Fuel dragster when you jump on them.
Yeah, they got a good throat to them. They are louder than stock. It's not like a ridiculous amount of noise. It doesn't sound like an old Banshee with a pipe on it screaming up the dunes, but it is definitely louder than stock.
Something else that comes up every once in a while is the spark arrestor requirement for National Forest. We don't have a spark arrestor. Well,
yeah,
what about it?
This is a completely flow-through exhaust, and we're able to not run a spark arrestor because of our turbo design. Because all the exhaust gas goes through the turbine wheel, we don't have to put a spark arrestor on there. If you ran a conventional turbocharger with a wastegate on there, you have to run a spark arrestor because part of the exhaust gas does bypass the turbine wheel.
It's almost like they wrote the rule just for us, because they specifically say 100% of the exhaust gas has to flow through the turbine. Well, a variable vane turbine is the only one that meets that requirement.
Our turbo alone, if you somehow did get a variable vane turbo from another manufacturer, it's still not going to work because they run wastegates. This part here is going to be the air box, as well as the air-to-water intercooler for the RZR. The center part's the air-to-water intercooler. You can see the lines in and lines out, or fittings for the lines. That allows the water to flow through it. It's got a petcock on top. That way it makes it easy to fill the system. You don't have to worry about air bubbles. Just open it up as you're filling it, and it'll burp out all the air bubbles. All the silicone comes on it installed already with clamps and everything ready to go. Just allows you to bolt it in between the turbo and the throttle bodies. Another thing that we include with all our kits is a custom blow-off valve. We make these ourselves. We spec our own spring pressures. That way it's blowing off at the appropriate time. We're not worried about leaks or anything like that.
And then we've got a nice little filter on there to make sure we don't get sand and dust and things of that nature in there. But as long as we're looking at this piece, what's really nice about it is how integrated the intercooler core is to the airbox. Long story short, you compress air, it gets hot. We want to extract that heat prior to getting to the engine, so we're going to use water to do that. So the water that comes from that custom radiator that we showed you gets cooled off in the front of the vehicle. It runs to the back, runs to the center of this airbox here. It pulls the heat out of the charge and takes it back up front to the radiator. The engine gets a nice cool charge, and we make power.
Yeah, with the cooler charge temperatures, you make more power. It's safer power. You're not worried about detonation as much, because hot air is more likely to detonate than cooler charge temps.
Anyhow, that's all of our boxes emptied out. You've looked at all of our components. Please get online, look at the install video. If you've got any questions, feel free to give us a call. There's plenty of videos out there showing these things in action. But we just wanted to share with you some of the components, what comes in a box, what to expect, and appreciate your time.
Thanks.